Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet and gentle space we have set aside for you. And thank you, with all our hearts, for choosing to rest your mind here with us. We have woven a story for you from the simplest of things, from light and from dust. A quiet liturgy intended to be a soft and gentle hand on your shoulder, guiding you toward the peaceful shores of sleep. Should you find a measure of comfort in this simple tale as it unfolds, we would be so grateful if you would, before you drift away, offer your support by liking this story, subscribing to our channel, and perhaps sharing a kind thought with us. Before we enter the Great Solarium to witness the day's first light, we shall first share a moment of quiet breath to calm our spirits. Let us now invite a deep and true comfort into our bodies, settling into our resting place as if we were a single mote of dust finally coming to rest on a smooth, quiet surface. Allow yourself to feel the gentle support of your mattress, the soft embrace of your pillow, letting every part of you feel wonderfully held and secure. You might draw your blankets a little closer, creating a warm, safe cocoon just for you. This time belongs to you and you alone, a gentle pilgrimage into stillness, where the day's hurried thoughts are given permission to simply soften and drift away, leaving behind a quiet clarity in your heart, as pure as the air in the solarium before dawn. Now, let us share a quiet breath together, as slow and patient as the rising of the sun. Gently, softly, draw the air in through your nose, imagining it is the cool, clean air of the deepest night, filling you with a sense of calm potential. Then release it just as gently, a warm and silent sigh, letting go of all that is done. With each slow, easy breath, feel your body becoming stiller, your muscles softening and releasing, finding a simple, pleasant weightiness. Imagine the faint, sweet scent of sun-warmed wood, an ancient, gentle thing, a fragrance that quiets the mind and reassures the soul that all is well. If, by chance, your thoughts should begin to swirl and dance like the sun-motes in a beam of light, that is perfectly all right, dear one. Acknowledge them with a gentle kindness, as Oren acknowledges the light, and then softly guide your attention back to the simple, steady rhythm of your own breathing, or to the quiet sound of my voice. There is nothing more for you to do now, save for listening and allowing the story to be a gentle vessel, carrying you toward the deep and restorative rest you so richly deserve. Let us begin our quiet observation and let the gentle liturgy of dust and light guide you into a serene and deeply peaceful sleep. Chapter 1. The First Stirring. In the deep and velvety quiet that comes just before the dawn, the Great Solarium of Stillness held its breath. It was a silence so profound it felt like a soft, heavy blanket, a quietude spun from the coolness of the night and the patient weight of ages. Within this vast circular space, all was shadow and suggestion. The high domed ceiling was an indigo void, and the smooth, pale clay walls were gentle curves of gray. The air itself was cool and clean, carrying the faintest scent of old, dry wood and the clean perfume of night-settled dust, a fragrance of pure peace. Oren, the solarium's soul and gentle keeper, began to stir. There was no sound to mark this awakening, no jarring alarm or sudden call, but rather a slow internal shift, a quiet turning of consciousness that was as natural and unhurried as the turning of the world itself. Their first awareness was of the texture of their simple woolen blanket, its soft, slightly rough weave of familiar comfort against the skin. Then came the feeling of the cool air on their face, a gentle reminder that the night was preparing to yield. Rising from their simple cot in a small curved alcove, Oren's bare feet met the floor not with a slap, but with a soft, silent press against the smooth, dark wood. Moving through the deep dimness was an act of memory and feeling, not of sight. Oren's path was sure, a slow and graceful navigation of the open space, their soft cloth garments whispering against the still air and the only sound to disturb the silence. They moved to a small, simple table where a plain ceramic pitcher and cup awaited. The water, poured with a steady hand, made a low, liquid murmur as it filled the cup, a sound that seemed to make the silence around it even deeper. The water was cool and tasted of clean earth and minerals, a pure and simple start to the liturgy of the day. With the cup of water held in both hands, Oren walked to the center of the vast circular room. Here they stood for a long, quiet time, simply being. They were not waiting in the anxious, expectant way of the hurried world, but were simply present, a still point in the turning world, feeling the deep, resonant quiet of the solarium seep into their very bones. It was a daily ritual of grounding, of attuning the self to the slow, ancient rhythms of the place. The coolness of the wooden floor crept up through the soles of their feet, a calming physical connection to the foundation of this sacred, simple space. From this central point, Oren could just perceive the faint outlines of the great arched windows high on the eastern wall. They were rectangles of a slightly less profound darkness against the deep indigo of the dome, silent promises of what was to come. There was no need to check a clock or consult a chart. The keeper knew the moments of the day by the quality of the quiet and the feel of the air. This deep, cool, expectant hush was the overture, the sacred silence before the first note of light was played. Oren finished the water and placed the cup back on its table with a soft, deliberate motion. They then retrieved a single, simple chair of dark, smooth wood, its surface polished by years of gentle use, and placed it near the western wall, facing east. It was here they would sit to witness the day's beginning. Settling into the chair, Oren pulled a soft blanket over their lap, a small act of comfort and preparation. The wood of the chair was cool against their back, and they let their body relax into its familiar, supportive shape. There was nothing left to do but to be still and to watch. Oren's breathing was slow and even, a quiet rhythm that joined the deeper, silent rhythm of the solarium. The mind was clear, a placid pool reflecting the deep, calm darkness of the room. This was the foundation of the liturgy, a state of receptive quietude, an open heart ready to receive the simple, profound gift of the coming day. The moments stretched, long and peaceful, each one a perfect pearl of tranquility on a long, unbroken string. And then it began. It was not a sudden change, but a transformation so gradual it was almost imperceptible. High in one of the eastern windows, the deep indigo began to soften at its edges, bleeding into a soft, bruised purple, then into a gentle, luminous gray. A single star, which had been holding its place in the window's frame, faded softly from view, its duty done. The first light was arriving, and with it, the liturgy of dust and light was about to unfold. Oren watched, their heart filled with a quiet, simple gratitude. All was as it should be. Chapter 2. The Ascent of Light. The soft, pearlescent gray in the highest window seemed to gather itself, to deepen in intensity for a long, quiet moment. The air in the solarium, which had been so uniformly cool, now held a new subtle charge, a feeling of gentle anticipation. Oren sat perfectly still in their simple chair, a silent, reverent congregation of one, their gaze fixed upon the slow, sacred miracle. The world outside was still hushed, but here, in this dedicated space, the day was making its first formal entrance, a guest of honor arriving with quiet, unassuming grace. Then, the first true sunbeam broke through. It was not the sharp, aggressive spear of light one might see in the outside world. The ancient lumina glass in the window performed its gentle magic, taking the raw white light of the nascent sun and transforming it, softening it into a single cohesive column of gentle, hazy radiance. It slanted down from the high window, cutting a clean, soft-edged path through the dimness to touch the dark, polished wooden floor far below. It was a silent, luminous pillar, and where it stood, the air itself seemed to hum with a new, quiet life. This first touch of light was a summons. It was the gentle call that awakened the sun-motes. For long moments, the pillar of light was clear, and then, slowly, as if stirring from a long and peaceful sleep, they began to appear. At first, there were only a few tiny, iridescent sparks drifting into the beam, but soon they were joined by dozens, then hundreds, then a number beyond counting. The ancient dust of the solarium, the collected powdered memories of old wood and dried petals, rose from the floor and the sills and began their slow, swirling dance, transforming the column of light into a living, breathing entity. Oren watched, their breath held not in suspense, but in a kind of quiet awe. This was the part of the liturgy that never failed to fill their heart with a gentle, innocent wonder. The motes did not swirl chaotically, but seemed to follow unseen currents in the air, rising and falling, weaving in and out of the beam in slow, graceful, interlocking spirals. They shimmered as they turned, each tiny mote catching the light and refracting it into a microscopic spectrum of soft color. It was like watching a galaxy being born in a silent, slow explosion of gentle light. After a time, Oren rose and moved to the small table, their movements still slow and deliberate, careful not to disturb the sacred air. They prepared their morning tea, spooning fragrant dried herbs, chamomile flowers like tiny pale suns, and the soft purple of lavender, into a simple clay pot. The sound of the hot water pouring over them was a gentle hiss, and the aroma that rose in a soft cloud of steam was instantly calming, a scent of warm fields and gentle quiet. The fragrance mingled with the ever-present smell of cool wood and old dust, creating a perfume that was unique to this place and this time of day. Returning to their chair, with a warm, handleless cup cradled in their hands, Oren sat once more to watch the dance. The warmth of the ceramic seeped into their palms, a comforting, grounding sensation. They took a slow sip of the tea. Its flavor was soft and floral, a taste of pure tranquility that washed through the body, loosening any last remnants of sleep. The warmth spread from their chest outwards, a gentle blooming heat that made them feel wonderfully present and at ease. The light grew stronger as the sun rose higher. A second, then a third window began to admit a column of soft light, and with them, new galaxies of sun-motes awakened and joined the silent dance. The three pillars stood apart on the floor, each one a shimmering, swirling vortex of gentle energy. The patterns of light on the dark wood were now clear. 3 soft, elongated ovals of gentle luminescence, a script written in the language of the sun. Oren knew these shapes, as well as they knew their own hands. They were the first verses of the day's unfolding hymn. Oren felt a profound sense of peace settle over them, a feeling of deep connection to this simple, beautiful ritual. This was their purpose, their joy, to be a quiet witness to this daily conversation between the light and the earth. In a world that so often prized noise and speed, this place was a sanctuary for slowness, a temple to the beauty of simple incremental change. The motes danced, the tea warmed them, and the day unfolded, all in its own perfect time. Chapter 3, The Midday Hymn. As the sun journeyed to its highest point in the sky, the Great Solarium underwent a gentle yet profound transformation. The light that now poured through the high arched windows was no longer the tentative, slanted radiance of the morning, but a fuller, more confident luminescence. The many columns of light now merged, filling the central space with a warm, pervasive glow that felt as soft and tangible as fine-spun wool. The shadows retreated to the very edges of the room, becoming soft, dark pools of quiet in the alcoves and beneath the simple furniture. It was in this midday light that the unique magic of the solarium reached its gentle crescendo. The countless sun-motes, now all awakened and energized, swirled in a magnificent silent symphony. Their collective faint hum was now a steady, soothing presence, a sound that was felt in the center of the chest as a pleasant, calming vibration. At the same time, the lumina glass, now receiving the full, though softened force of the sun, began to sing its own quiet song, a single low resonant note that was the auditory equivalent of pure unwavering peace. The two sounds combined into a harmony that seemed to tune the very air to a state of perfect balance. The patterns of light on the dark wooden floor were at their most intricate, a complex and beautiful tapestry of soft-edged shapes that shifted with an imperceptible slowness. Oren would sometimes sit on the floor at this time, right in the center of a patch of light, feeling the gentle, nourishing warmth seep through their clothes and into their skin. They closed their eyes, and the light against their eyelids was a soft, pleasant red, a color of warmth and life. They could feel the gentle hum of the motes and the glass, not just with their ears, but with their whole body, a sensation that gently unraveled any and all hidden knots of tension. It was during this warm, humming peace that a soft, shuffling sound was heard at the entrance. The low wooden door opened, admitting Pippa, the gentle wanderer. She carried with her a small cloth bag, and her face, when she saw the swirling, light-filled space, broke into a smile of pure, quiet delight. She gave Oren a soft nod of greeting, which was returned in kind, and then she moved to a patch of sunlight, sat down with a quiet sigh of contentment, and simply watched, becoming part of the silent congregation. There was no need for words between them. Their friendship was one of quiet companionship, built upon a shared love for the simple and the serene. After a long, comfortable silence, Pippa opened her small bag. The scent of dry seeds and fragrant earth wafted into the warm air. She poured a small handful of tiny, dark seeds into her palm and held them out for Oren to see. "For the lavender patch," she murmured, her voice as soft as the hum of the motes. "They come from a garden that listens to the wind." Oren looked at the seeds, each one a tiny, perfect vessel of potential quietude and fragrance. They nodded slowly, a gentle smile touching their lips. "They will be happy here," Oren replied, their own voice a low, calm murmur that did not disturb the peace. "The light is very kind." It was a complete conversation, a full and satisfying exchange that used no more words than were absolutely necessary. They sat together for a while longer, Pippa holding the seeds and Oren simply resting their hands on their knees, both of them watching the grand, slow, silent dance. The air was warm and smelled of sun-drenched wood, fragrant tea, and now the faint, earthy promise of the seeds. Pippa's presence did not subtract from the solitude. Rather, it enriched it, transforming it from a solitary peace into a shared one. It was a reminder that quiet hearts could recognize one another without the need for extensive pleasantries. Eventually, Pippa carefully poured the seeds back into her bag, tied it shut, and rose to her feet with the same gentle slowness she did everything. With another quiet nod and a warm smile, she was gone, leaving the solarium just as she had found it, but for the lingering, gentle memory of her visit. Oren remained, watching the midday hymn of light play itself out, their heart full of the simple, quiet joy of a shared moment of profound peace. Chapter 4. The Golden Recession. The sun began its slow descent from its zenith, and with it, the liturgy entered its next, more gentle phase. The brilliant, pervasive luminescence of midday softened, gradually resolving back into distinct, separate columns of light. These beams, however, were different from their morning counterparts. They were now angled from the west-facing windows, and the light they carried was no longer a hazy white radiance, but a rich, warm golden hue, the color of late harvest honey or a perfectly steeped cup of chamomile tea. This golden light seemed to move with a more languid, leisurely pace. The dance of the sun-motes, which at midday had been a vibrant, humming swirl, now slowed to a more graceful, drifting float. They hung in the warm, slanted beams like tiny golden boats on a slow, invisible river, their iridescent shimmer now a soft, gentle spark. The complex patterns on the floor simplified, elongating into long, soft-edged trapezoids of warm, amber light that stretched across the dark wood, painting the floor in broad, peaceful strokes. The temperature in the solarium began to subtly shift. The intense warmth of noon gave way to a more gentle, pleasant heat, the kind that invites a comfortable drowsiness. The scent of the space changed, too. The sharp, clean fragrance of sun-drenched wood began to mellow, mingling with the sweet, almost floral perfume of the cooling dust, creating an atmosphere of deep, restful contentment. Oren took a deep, slow breath, savoring this unique fragrance of the receding day, a scent that spoke of gentle endings and the promise of rest. This was the time of day Oren often chose for the simple meditative task of caring for the solarium. They retrieved a large, impossibly soft cloth woven from undyed cotton and worn smooth with years of use. Unfolding it, they knelt on the floor just at the edge of one of the golden beams. With slow, rhythmic, circular motions, they began to polish the dark wooden floor. The work was not a chore, but another form of reverence, a way of participating in the day's quiet ritual. The soft swish of the cloth against the wood was a gentle, rhythmic sound, a quiet percussion accompanying the day's slow decrescendo. Oren's movements were unhurried and mindful, their focus entirely on the feel of the cloth in their hand and the way the wood seemed to glow with a deeper richness after each pass. They were not cleaning away the dust, for the dust was sacred here, but simply burnishing the floor that served as the stage for its daily dance, an act of loving maintenance for this peaceful space. As they worked their way across the floor, they followed the retreating light. When a patch of floor cooled as the light left it, Oren would move there, their polishing cloth bringing back a faint, momentary warmth. It was a slow, quiet dance of their own, a partnership with the fading sun. The physical repetition was deeply calming, allowing the mind to become as still and smooth as the floor beneath their hands. Oren paused in their work, sitting back on their heels and simply watching the last, strongest beam of golden light. It struck a section of the curved, pale clay wall, and the light that reflected off it was incredibly soft and diffuse, making the very air in that part of the room seem to glow. A single slow-moving mote drifted through this illuminated air, its passage a singular perfect moment of beauty, a final quiet solo before the curtain of twilight fell. A feeling of profound, gentle satisfaction filled Oren. The day had been full and beautiful in its simplicity. The light had come, it had sung its silent hymn, and now it was preparing to depart. There was no sadness in this recession, only a deep sense of a cycle moving gracefully toward its natural, peaceful conclusion. Oren folded the soft cloth, placed it back in its alcove, and sat once more in their chair to witness the final beautiful moments of the day's liturgy. Chapter 5. The last Vespers of Twilight. The last golden beam of direct sunlight, which had been resting upon the far western wall like a warm, sleeping animal, finally lifted. It did not vanish abruptly, but seemed to dissolve, its light drawn back up through the high window in a slow, final exhalation. For a few lingering moments, the window itself held the light, a soft, glowing rectangle of deep, molten orange. Before that too faded, leaving behind the cool, placid gray of the evening sky. The liturgy of direct light was over. Now began the final phase, the Vespers of Twilight. The solarium was not plunged into darkness, but was instead filled with a soft, ambient, and deeply peaceful glow. The light that remained was indirect, a gentle reflection from the sky itself, and it painted the vast, quiet space in subtle, shifting shades of lavender, dusty rose, and a deep, calming blue. The air, now cool against the skin, felt thick and still, as if it was settling down for the night along with the rest of the world. And settle it did. The sun-motes, their dance now ended, began their slow, silent descent. It was the most peaceful procession imaginable. They did not fall, but rather drifted down, like the softest, most lightweight snowfall, returning to the surfaces from which they had risen hours before. The air, which had been shimmering with their movement all day, grew clearer and more transparent with each passing moment until it was once again a medium of crystalline stillness. The faint, humming chorus of the motes faded into a profound, enveloping silence. Oren stood from their chair and walked to the center of the great room. The wooden floor was cool beneath their feet now, its stored warmth given back to the air. They stood there in the heart of the deep blue twilight and simply listened to the quiet. It was a different quiet from the expectant hush of the pre-dawn. This was the quiet of completion, of fulfillment. It was the deep, contented silence that follows a beautiful piece of music, a quiet rich with the memory of the notes that had just been played. The keeper walked the circumference of the room, a slow meditative patrol. Their hand trailed along the cool, smooth surface of the pale clay wall. They paused at each window, looking out not at the world but up at the sky in the frame. The first stars were beginning to appear, pinpricks of cold, clear light in the deepening indigo. They were the silent audience for the day's performance, and their arrival signaled that it was truly complete. Returning to the center, Oren felt a deep and abiding sense of gratitude wash over them. Gratitude for the simple, profound beauty of the day's cycle. Gratitude for the peace of this place, for its quiet magic. Gratitude for the gift of being its keeper, its witness. Their heart felt as calm and settled as the dust that now rested on the floor. There was no lingering tension in their body, no hurried thoughts in their mind. There was only a state of pure, simple being. As the last vestiges of color drained from the sky, leaving the windows as frames for the deep, star-dusted dark, Oren retrieved their soft blanket. They returned not to their chair, but to their simple cot in its sheltered alcove. Lying down, they pulled the blanket up, its familiar weight of final comforting reassurance. The air in the solarium was cool and carried the clean scent of the night. Through half-closed eyes, Oren could see the faint, silvery light of the stars casting the dimmest of glows through the high windows, just enough to hint at the shapes within the profound darkness. The day was done, all was quiet, and all was well. A deep, peaceful drowsiness began to steal over them, as gentle and inexorable as the setting of the sun. The story ends here, in this perfect moment of peace, leaving the listener to drift away on the soft, quiet tide of their own well-earned rest.